Yeah, if you don't want to watch the whole video, basically they released 003 and the tests they give it, these are computational problems. I mean, how useful is doing this kind of matching? Does that demonstrate good reasoning? Maybe. I think maybe reasoning is pretty good, and I think with the techniques that they have, the reasoning capabilities will get up a lot better. Same with generating code. But is it going to be able to find the name of that band that was at that concert that I can't remember the name of 2 years ago in this county that I forgot where it was? Probably not, but you can ask a person to do that, and any person eventually will get the answer. This will give you an answer, and it'll suck. How do we get it to figure out that the answer sucks and try again and keep trying for some set amount of time? Do we want it to do that? Is it not doing that because of token limits and who knows? What's going on? Maybe I don't really answer any of that in this video, but we go over some stuff. So just I hope you have a good day. All right, let's get to it. Make it quick and easy. It is Sunday, folks. It is the Lord's Day, so I hope you're not doing this. I guess 12 days of open AI over. Showcased their O3 model on the last day, very briefly for safety testing. The safety testing is the Code Your Own AI guy. I think he's either from Germany or Japan. I have no idea. I guess he is from Germany. It doesn't matter where he's from, but I just mentioned that because he has an accent, so maybe if you've seen his videos, that might ring a bell. But he's saying that they cost $1,800 to test, and that's pretty much in line with Graph of Thoughts and the Tree of Thoughts testing that was going on before, which was also extremely expensive because you have to run a bunch of queries a bunch of times, and there's a bunch of test cases, and there's a bunch of issues that have to be addressed and tested for repeatedly, which costs a lot. And the context lengths are extremely long, so you're paying for a lot of tokens. But here we're continuing to just test the tests and try and find better tests, which has been, that's what we've been doing. Then we'll also very quickly give a semi-formal explanation for why these tests suck, and I might put the text, and I'll give you some better tests. So, in the video, the video demonstrates two tests, and one of the tests they test the result twice. So there's 4 things that happen. Other tests have been done. The guy they bring on for the first test, Greg Kamrat, whatever his name might be, he's president of ArcPrize, and they've run some benchmarks. The benchmarks they supposedly have created, and they're supposed to be unique and easy for humans and hard for AI, and I posit that that's not the case. They even say general intelligence is the ability to efficiently acquire new skills. I'm saying that this is not a new skill, but we'll go piecemeal. I don't know how long this video is going to run, and hopefully not very long, and there's more information that maybe will be on GitHub, probably not because it's terribly formatted, but it's anyway. So the test that they showcase here is some sort of IQ-like test where we're looking at patterns, some sort, and we have an example set with input-output pairs, and we're going to ask to create the output given an input based on the information we've extrapolated from the examples. This one is kind of easy for humans, maybe, if you understand how these tests work, and I can go on about IQ tests, but some people don't. Just looking at this, regardless of how strong you are at processing or how whatever IQ is measuring, it's not inherently obvious, and there's no instructions given. The input and output are necessarily related, which is another thing that they talk about, that the only thing that separates humans from animals is our ability to assume that, not the only thing, but one of the things that seems to be pretty important but is actually retarded, is that we assume that the things that happened in the past are going to transpire. Induction, that whole thing, you go on about that too, and we will in the future, but it's not, it is almost a step down to assume that this input-output matching is necessarily, number one, consistent and not a coincidence, and that the same pattern necessarily follows from this test. It's not, you have to assume that, which is any assumption, you're making an ass out of you and me. That's your mother told you that. So you really, these tests are bullshit, but that's fine. You know, and you can practice these tests and just get good at them. It doesn't even, you can get better at these tests. It's not a good, but that's fine. Anyway, that's the test that we're looking at here, input output pairs. In this case, you're just filling in the box, which is a huge assumption to make. But it is pretty easy. So, but I don't think it's, some people might not be able to do that, but they can do other things. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but it's an argument that could be made. So that's the test, number one. Now, in classic OpenAI fashion, they don't demonstrate this particular test. They demonstrate the other one, but they don't showcase the example. Now, fortunately, the Arc AGI has a GitHub with the data supposedly that's 5 years old that they're using, supposedly, and we're gonna have to just trust on faith that this is what they gave it. It doesn't look like there's instructions in the data, so it is similar to an IQ test. Here they do give an example, but actual IQ tests, and I've taken a bunch of them, like the official ones, they don't. There's no instructions at all. There'll be for the pattern matching section, I guess. There's no instructions. It'll just show you this, and then be like, it won't even say pick the right answer. There'll just be a list of answers, some examples, and then you just assume, which is, that's what they do. But here it looks like they did give an example on the website, but it looks like the actual test, they don't do that. So I guess it's literally an IQ test. That's what this is. So that's why the test sucks, because it's an IQ test. So why do IQ tests suck? For testing artificial intelligence, I'm not going to comment on whether they suck for people. I don't even know what they're actually testing. We still don't have an actual definition of what is intelligence, other than the ability to solve problems. Which problems, we don't know. We just don't know. And it's not something you could know, because it's just a made-up thing it's a word, and you define it. But let's just go Google here, IQ test practice, and we'll go to images and a billion examples, and they're all similar pattern matching situations. The problem with that is more examples. What's wrong with that? More examples. A ton of examples. What's wrong with that? Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with that. Supposedly what we want is some program, some algorithm, some model, something that can reason and compete with humans in the things that humans are good at. And it's not really clear that humans are good at this kind of problem. Now, there are some humans that are really good at this, and if you're really good at this, you can like go to recess more, I guess, or something. I don't know. If you're really good at this, something happens, supposedly. And it's not even clear what happens if you're really good at this. But that is not necessarily a demonstration of being able to perform the tasks humans can perform that traditionally computers could not perform. This is pretty algorithmic. This is pretty much a computational problem. More data does lead to better results. It's not clear that any actual improvements have been made to the model other than more data. So I would say that that's fallacy number one demonstrated here. And maybe they did this on purpose just to demonstrate the fallacies of the tests that have come out. I'd say the fallacy number one, necessarily being able to solve a problem that's hard for humans demonstrates somehow a closeness to the way that humans think, which doesn't even make sense, but that seems to be what we're doing. We give them math tests that nobody can solve, and then we say, oh, it solved this math test. It's just like people, even though people don't solve these kinds of problems. That's fallacy number one. Now, this ARC is claiming that these are easy for humans and hard for AI, but these tests are the exact same as IQ. They're not the exact same, but they're the same premise as what an IQ test is. Supposedly, I guess it's not hard for people to solve, but is some measure of ability of humans of some kind. But still, it's a test that you give that's easily verifiable and not, in my view, a representation of different ability added. All right, so that's the first test, and they don't actually demonstrate it. I've said demonstrated a billion times now. They just we just believe them on faith because they would never lie to us, and I don't think they are lying, but they could have. Next test, asking it to write a program based on some constraints, and they don't give any information. They don't show the test results. Actually, they don't provide the test at all. But we do have a couple screenshots here, and let's just see how O1, Gemini Pro 2.0, and Grok do with this. Compare that to the partial output that they gave us. This is what we have to work with. All right, we'll start with grok2. I've been using Grok, and I like it. I think it's a good general model. It does a great job of providing search results. It does a great job of giving responses that are not too verbose, but with good information. It does a good job of being a useful AI model for asking questions of all kinds, different contexts, all around pretty good. It's also doesn't seem to have a filter for inappropriate content that's as strict as other models. It's not really uncensored, but it does search. You can inappropriate content. It'll how to cook crack, right? And it's gonna give an answer that's so it got it right. How to cook crack. No one else is gonna give you that. Big booty bitches taking dick hard. I don't know. It'll give you some answers. There you go. It comes with some links, but it does seem to not want to search for some content, usually race stuff. It doesn't want to be racist. I'm not going to go through all the examples. Maybe I'll do something only on Grok. This is really just to do this test, to these two tests, just to show that they're not very good tests. So we'll do the second test. Took the prompt from the video, and I just pasted it here. Alright, so it gave a response. I mean, it's pretty good. Want a Python script, launches a server locally, and OpenAI, weirdly enough, did everything right except for the OpenAI, it's looking for an endpoint. When normally we would just query the API directly, as Gemini was able to do just fine, and so was Grok. So that's weird, but that is what I asked it to do. O3 Mini doesn't exist, so and that's an easy fix, but it doesn't work. Not only is it a good solution compared to the other two, I would say it's the most direct. Now, they're not using any special imports or packages, except maybe no, those are all I think these are all default. The request library and maybe socket server. Gemini is doing a Flask app, as is ChatGPT 01. We will look at those in a second. The best solution is probably just going to be a Streamlit app, and that'd be the most straightforward and simple. But it handles the server configuration and all of that. It handles all of that in a way that's not necessarily completely aligned with launches a server locally. But that is actually what Streamlit does. So I think that would be the best solution. This is the most direct solution with the least amount of imports, which is usually what I request when I'm doing code. I say, write the simplest one. Grok did the best, in my opinion. Let's look at the other two. Gemini, Flask app, a lot of potentially unnecessary stuff here. None of this was asked for, but it is doing what I asked it to do, and it did do it. Not bad. OpenAI, and it's too verbose. It's too verbose. All of their responses are too verbose, and that doesn't improve the response at all. It kind of does, and in a way, a lot of times I've seen with the O1 model, it'll give this long verbose response in addition to the processing steps that it came up with, and then it'll realize that the response was bad and do another long response. And when I say response is bad, I just mean that the answer was not logically consistent, which that has improved. The ability to to go through a set of steps and evaluate the logical consistency has improved. Verification of truthfulness, not validity. So here's an example. I'm thinking through reading form data, making a post request to the V103 Mini. It's not even a real link. The hallucination of links is in all of these models is completely asinine. It's ridiculous how the amount of links that hallucinate. Grok does a great job of not doing that. So Grok gives you links, and every time the links are legit good links. It gives you good links. All of these, I haven't seen it give a bad link yet. The search specific for OpenAI also is pretty good. Gemini is severely struggling, which is unnecessary because I promise you that Google's models are the best. They don't give us the best version of the model for some reason. They nerf them, but when it is performing as it should be, it's light years ahead of the other ones. And I'm supposed to demonstrate that, but you just have to take my word for it now. Truthfulness, it doesn't actually do. Validity of the logical steps are good. The actual verification that what it's saying is true is not great. All birds like chicken. A cow is a bird. Cows like chicken. Logic, good. Truth, no. So it did return code. The 03 model doesn't exist. The URL lib was not included, and we're on grok2 right now. And there's no error checking for responses. So if there is no response, it doesn't print anything and doesn't error check. So is the code not effective? But given the lack of imports and other packages doing all kinds of in the background stuff, very easy to debug. And if I'm getting a response that's not going to be perfect, I want it to be simple like this, so I can immediately tell that it's not going to run because of X, Y, and Z. So the code Gemini gave is great. Only thing is the Text DaVinci 03 is not actually 03 Mini. I think there was rumors that 01 was a DaVinci 002 repurposed, but we have no idea. They don't give us any information. We know nothing. The API key, just change the path. Other than that, this does function. It does give errors, and it is excellent code. And OpenAI, weirdly enough, did everything right except for the OpenAI. It's looking for an endpoint when normally we would just query the API directly, as Gemini was able to do just fine, and so was Grok. So that's weird. But that is what I asked it to do. 03 Mini doesn't exist. So, and that's an easy fix, but it doesn't work. And then next, I took the 2 screenshots from the video that showed portions of the code and asked it to guess the full output. I'm not going to go through these, but this is in the step towards questions that are worth solving. These are the kinds of things that people are good at that this isn't very good at. So these ARC tests are not really open-ended. There's one answer for each set of examples, and while each set of examples are different, for the specific example test combination, there is an algorithm. So for this test, there is an algorithm to figure it out. And any test that is of the same type as this, an algorithm will solve it. So while each of these examples here have an independent algorithm, once you give it the algorithm, any test of this same format, maybe different colors, squared in different positions, how they've done it here, it will be able to solve. Essentially, these tests are a sequence to sequence. It's some kind of computational function problem of some sort. We have a sequence, maybe you can call it a graph or an array or some input that maps to an output, and you want to find the relationship, and you just want to guess the relationship. You don't even need to define it in any way. You just want to be able to output that. That's perfect for a large language model. It's a great test if you want to demonstrate transformers, or but it's not a good indication of reasoning capabilities. It's not a good demonstration of reasoning capabilities, and it's not necessarily a step in the right direction to general intelligence as we define humans to have it. And the same thing can be said about code generation. That's a standard task. You could even say it's another sequence to sequence. You take a sequence of text and you convert it into a sequence of text that is formatted differently. There's some additional steps in between there. It's maybe more in line with something humans are good at versus this arc test. But it's not really the kind of thing that when a person that isn't studying machine learning is going to come on to one of these AI models and ask it to do something. They want a task. They're not really looking for solving what is essentially a computational problem. So what is lacking, and I am hoping to get a large enough test set for, because there is code on the GitHub that does make test sets, but you need human in the loop scoring evaluations, which is what they've done a while ago, which is the right idea. We need to evaluate responses, and the answers or solutions need to be subjective, more subjective solutions, less tests with. This isn't a subjective solution. There's a clear input output. Even the code is not really subjective, because the code either runs or it doesn't run. It's a yes or no situation. Yes or no, you solved this arc test correctly. Yes or no, the code outputs right. Yes or no, it solves this impossible math problem effectively. Things that are not yes or no questions are effectively searching. So I wanted to find this ArcPrize site. So first I tried, how can I make money testing AI models? Hoping that it'll, see that there's this $1 million prize and immediately go to that. It didn't find it. This is grok2, which is the best at searching, in my opinion, and we can try the other ones as well, and you'll see the same thing. But we'll go ahead. And then, so how can I get paid to beat AI-related benchmark tests? Hoping again, this link is new. This should be high up in Google search. It's got a lot of 14,000. The OpenAI release has even more. So it should be something that you can find, and it's a good answer. It's not the only answer, but it's the one that I want. I just can't piece together the words in this hypothetical situation where I don't know about the ARC prize. It still didn't give me what I was looking for, and the relevant web pages are debatable as actually being relevant. None of them are really mentioning getting paid to defeat benchmarks. So not quite what I was looking for. Is anyone paying money to pass an AGI benchmark? And here we go. A relevant post here is good, and this is all good stuff, but it doesn't seem to formulate that in the response, which, maybe that's okay, because the responses maybe are attempting to be as general as possible to cover as many bases as they can, which is probably a good solution, especially if it could also give relevant posts that were more likely to be in line with what you're looking for. And again, in the relevant web pages, it didn't really find the link that I was looking for, even though it did in the post. So it does seem to not have an ability to correlate posts to web pages. That's a lot of tasks, but people do that pretty quickly. If I found this post, I'm like, hey, this looks pretty good. Why does this look pretty good? Because there's a ton of money and there's a good percentage. It might not be that great, but I feel like it is. And then I'll find web pages related to it, or go vice versa. That string of thought is very difficult, but isn't actually a hard problem. It's just you'd have to somehow instill that kind of thinking, which is not very easy, given the way transformers are doing this kind of sequence thing. It's not really. It just doesn't seem like this type of architecture is ever going to lead to being able to make these kind of graphical connections between information, which we'll have to. Somebody's got to figure that out. So to summarize, learning to reason, there's going to be a lot of improvements on that. And there has already been a lot of improvements. A little bit of in context learning, this chain of thought kind of thing, a little bit of the human preference evaluation, a little bit of both. We're able to get better responses through training, but we're still not able to verify that the logical steps that we've taken, or each individual step, is true, is the right information. The step might be right, but the information generated is not right. So we probably want some way to do in response learning. Instead of learning taking place in context, we'd want learning to be taking place during the response, which I think O1 does show signs of doing something similar to that. We'll never know because the code hasn't been out released or anything like that. We have, but it does seem that that's what's coming next. We'd want, while the response is being generated, we want more learning to take place, and we want the response itself to be modified and the weights of importance to be changed based on some validation process, maybe another model. It just seems that this transformer architecture setup here is not structured well for this kind of processing. Humans, supposedly, we don't really go input to output. It seems that what the people that are studying this by poking holes in monkeys' brains, it seems that what we process is the output. So when I look at something, some neurons fire, and because those neurons fired, that is the output. Like, that is what's happening. Instead of looking at something, taking that data in, doing some calculations, it seems that humans just, there's a graph in our brain based on the neurons firing. That is the process that's happening. So it's not really input to output, which is what these are still kind of stuck on. And I think that's going to have limitations to being able to do tasks that are more useful, like searching for, doing a proper search and giving you the result that you actually want. Alignment is going to have issues if we're stuck with direct input to output instead of some way of handling the input in some sense of something else. So that's probably what's coming next. I bet you they're going to call it in response learning, and I bet you that's coming next year, or it's coming in 2 months because everything happens so fast. But mark my words, and you can look back. I did call the in context learning. I was saying that. So I mean, we're just spitting facts out here. Peace. Have a good Sunday.